Hey, what's up guys? Algin Estacio here with FlytPath.com. I just want to talk to you about a couple cases I've been using for the past couple weeks. And this is the hard case for the DJI Mavic. This is a molded soft case for the DJI Spark. Both of these were sent to me by Freewell Gear. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I've been using them for, what they hold, and as well as some of the pros and cons of each one of them. The first case I'll review is the DJI Mavic hard case by Freewell. And when I first got the case, I felt the build quality is really nice. Really nice hinges, and as far as the clasp go, they have a nice little lock on here, so you can't just pull them here from the front. You actually have to push and then pull. So I thought that was a nice little touch. Has a pressure release valve in the middle, and the big thing that Freewell markets is that it's a waterproof case. And when you open it up, you can definitely see that there's a nice big ridge right here that goes into this right here, which has a big rubber gasket. So as far as waterproof or water sealing goes, weather sealing goes, I definitely have put it to the test as far as dirt and dust, but not necessarily just water. But I can tell you that using it in many dirty situations or dusty situations, launching my Mavic off of here, opening this up, I definitely did not see any residue or any dirt that's creeping into here. So I have seen some other videos online where people have taken hoses to it and there was no water. So the weather sealing is definitely a plus for this case. On the outside, like I mentioned, it has a nice clasp that hold this thing shut, a rubber grip, which is a nice touch, and also has a couple holes here on both sides. This is if you wanted to add a little bit of security, add a padlock or something on here, just to transport that around with a little bit more safety in mind. But other than that, is a nice injected molded plastic that has, I've kind of beat it up a little bit. So I want to make sure I do give it a good test before doing the review. So from the outside, everything looks good. Once you get inside, there is a egg crate foam up top. And as you can see here, I have extra props, my filters, and this is meant to hold 1, 2, extra batteries, 1 in the Mavic, so that's 3 total. It has a foam, which is a little bit different foam than I'm used to. Very kind of dense. And when I say that, it's not too much give to the foam. It's a really thick foam, and there's not too much flex in it, which is a good and bad thing, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But other than that, they have cutouts for the remote, so it's nice and die cut. I believe it's like laser cut to hold the remote, so that fits nicely in there, as well as the batteries. There's little finger grips for you to pull them out. Down below here, there's an accessory cavity, and then also a space for your charger, which goes here. And I believe they have it on their website that this is for the hub. But what I did notice, and like I said, I'm going to talk about a couple pros and cons, is that I did like the foam set, the way it's cut out for the remote, but for the Mavic, I think it's just a hair tight. And some people say that's not that big of a deal, but I guess when you're always taking your Mavic in and out, you want to make sure it's pretty easy to take it in and out. Here, I think all they had to do was maybe cut the sides out just like another millimeter or so for it to slide in nicely and nice and easy. But after you've used it for a little bit, you kind of just have to wiggle it in and then push the back down. But once it's in, it is nice and snug in there. The website also showed that they have the cord in here. You wrap the cord up and you put it underneath. The only thing I didn't like about that is I hate kinking my cord right here at the end. So they have it so that you kind of wrap it under and you put it down into the slot right here. But like I mentioned, I don't want to bend that cord right here. So what I did is, what I normally do is I will take the foam or take the case, how it comes, and customize it to the way I need it. So what I've done here is made a slot down below so that I can put my power charger down. I don't have to bend the cord, and then I can put my remaining cables into this spot right here, as well as the power, put that in here, and then my accessory, I just have my cable for my iPad, and then I can loosely put an extra couple props on top, as well as my filters here, and then shut that and carry it that way. One other recommendation I would say to Freewell would be, right now they have a 1/2 inch egg crate foam on top. I would probably bump this up to a 1 inch. The only reason why I say that is that it is there to protect, but when you close this down, the foam doesn't really touch. The foam doesn't really touch the Mavic. It barely touches, if at all, touches at all. So I would have liked to have seen maybe a 1 inch foam, so at least I know that when you do close the lid, it will provide a nice soft kind of a blanket or an even cushion on top of all this, so that my accessories don't move, and so that my props and my motors are nice and protected. Here I think they used a 1/2 inch. I would have probably gone up to 1 inch. Like I said, that way it just gives a little bit more protection up top and holds everything in place. What I've noticed is that if I have my filters out here loosely or my props loosely, and if I'm transporting this thing around, you can actually hear some of that stuff move just a little bit, and they move just a little bit. So I would have liked to see maybe just a nice 1 inch here, just to hold everything pressed down a little bit more. But other than that, the case is well built, and like I mentioned, I use it to launch off of, and the outer casing is really well built. A couple minor tweaks, like I mentioned, on the inside that I would have improved on, maybe cut out just a little bit so it's not so tight in there, as well as the battery charger. All you would have to do is maybe cut out a little bit more of a notch here so that I'm not bending that cable down. I improvise here by just cutting a slit into the foam to make it a little bit more, a little easier to take that charger in and out. So pretty solid case overall, and this is the Freewell Gear hard case for the DJI Mavic Pro. So the next case I have is the DJI Spark, kind of a molded hard soft case. Reminds me of like a speaker or headphone case holder type of carrying case for the DJI Spark. They have added a handle here, which is a nice touch, and overall it is a really nice, well-built case. From the outside, it has hooks here, so, and it also comes with a shoulder strap, so if you wanted to carry it as a shoulder strap, hooks here on the side for you to then put your shoulder strap hooks on to carry it. So once you open it all up, you have room for your DJI Spark, remote, 3 extra batteries, so 4 total, 1 in the Spark and 3 extra, and there's a slot here if you have a power cable or any other accessories. That would go right here. And then of course the DJI Spark would sit right in the middle. Freewell also sent me this gimbal and camera guard, and I'll go ahead and leave all this information and links down below in the description. But this is a little camera gimbal guard to help protect it during transport. So it's a nice plastic piece. I've actually done a review on one very similar. I'll go ahead and add that link here. But this is a nice touch to add even while you're transporting it within the case. So keeps it nice and secure in case it bangs around a little bit. So that also fits within the case. On the top, there's a big zipper. I have my cables, little lens wipe, and I have my hub. You can also fit more things in here, but I'll tell you some pros and cons about this type of case as well as this pocket. So overall, same types of foam that we had in the other case. It's a very dense foam, so there's not much give to it, but it does work really well, and the Spark is cut out, perfectly for it, so it sits in there nicely. The only issue kind of a main issue I had is that the Spark sits, and it doesn't sit deep in the foam. So as you can see here, and I'll do some close-up shots, is the Spark kind of sits in here, and the motors do sit within the foam, but other than that, everything else sits well above it. I'd say a good almost an inch or 3/4 of an inch above the foam set, which is pretty concerning because of the fact that your motors are the most important part of this thing that you want to keep protected, especially during transit. And then when you have stuff in here, like for instance, if you were to try to carry around filters or your charger, when you close it, and if you can even close it, you're going to start That's all gonna put pressure on these props, which can in turn, damage them. So the one thing I did not like about this case is that, yes, there's a big pocket here, but you almost don't want to put anything in here because you're going to have to kind of smash it on top of the Spark. If this thing was set deeper within the foam, then it would be okay to pack this with a bunch of things because it would sit, and when you close it, it would rest on top of the motors. But here, because of the fact that there's so much space, I don't feel comfortable putting anything in here because you're gonna now have to press it against your Spark. So that's the one downfall I see with this case. I do believe that they have a Spark case that's very similar to the hard case I just showed you, that has a lot more depth to it, where the Spark can sit all the way down into the case and the foam would go past the motors, or at least equal to the motor height. That way it would keep this nice and flush and keep it well protected. I would feel a lot more comfortable that way. So if you went with something like this, which does work, like I mentioned, I would go away from trying to put too many things that are hard or heavy in the top here. I think they even marketed it with an iPad or something like that in here, but I just really wouldn't trust having that heavy, heavy accessories in here and then kind of pressing it up against this, because this is a soft case. It's not a hard case where if you were to press down on this hard enough, you're now pressing down onto the Spark or onto the motors, where if you had a hard case, you wouldn't be able to penetrate that. Like I mentioned, I believe Freewell does have a different foam set for the DJI Spark. This one is pretty good. If you were to go with this case, I would just say limit putting anything in here except cables and maybe wipes, a couple loose filters, stuff like that. That way, when you do close it, there's no really big accessories, no big power cords or chargers here pressing against the motors, which might damage your prop or your motors. So, and that's about it, guys. Once again, thanks for Freewell Gear for sending me this to review. I just want to thank them. All the products I'm showing you right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave that information down in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. I have a lot of other videos that deal with the DJI Mavic as well as the Spark, and I'll put some of those links below as well. So if you guys got some value from my video, please don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to be notified, hit that bell, and you will be notified when I do upload some new videos. I have a lot of other stuff coming this week, as well as some other products from Freewell that I'll be reviewing. So make sure you subscribe. And until then, thanks for watching. This is Aldrin Estacio with FlytPath.com.